Welcome to the Mentorship Challenge. I'm Marc Wainer, and mentorship is something that I'm passionate about. On this program, we have had numerous guests who've pledged thousands of hours of their valuable time to mentor you. In addition to the guests that we've had on TV, we also have people who we've only been able to put on our YouTube channel. We have just added Professor Gustav Putz, who is the Professor of Marketing and who has pledged 40 hours of his time.
They got to be teachable, because if somebody knows it all, then that's a dead end.
If you'd like to see Professor Gustav's interview or any of the other interviews that we've had, please go to our YouTube channel. With me in the studio, I'm very happy to have Manny Rivera. You may not know the name, but you'll certainly know his business, Planet Fitness. Manny, welcome.
Thank you, Mark. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure. Interesting story. I think, first of all, you don't talk properly because you come from the Bronx originally, and you've been in South Africa for how long?
Over 30 years.
Over 30 years, and
Yes.
You still can't speak.
Yeah, I still can't speak.
But your story of coming from America to South Africa is in essence a bit of a love story,
Correct.
because you were in New York selling massage machines to put yourself through university.
Correct.
Went to sell a massage machine to Bally health clubs, who were the biggest at the time.
Correct.
They convinced you to take a job selling gym membership. You took it, you gave up university, you ended up being the youngest guy controlling the whole of Manhattan.
Correct.
And that's where you met the lady, Michelle, who was to become your wife.
Correct.
So you fell in love with her, you came with her to South Africa.
Yes.
You fell in love with South Africa.
Yes.
And you were always passionate or in love with the gym business. So maybe just explain to viewers what you did and how you do it.
My background at that stage was really sales and marketing. You know, I knew how to make money. And we would go to the guys and say, Mark, you know, how you doing in the gym? He loved my accent. He was very confused, like you said, because I can barely, I don't know what I am nowadays. American, South African, I say I'm United Nations. I've been around the world so often. But, and I go to America and they say, where are you from? I said, I'm from here. You know? But, and I would say to them, Mark, how much money are you making? Most of them would lie, obviously, pad the figure. And I said, I'll tell you what I'll do for you. I'll come and I'll set up shop for you, you know, systems and marketing techniques and sales techniques and the whatnot. And whatever you're making, keep. Anything on top of that, we take 50-50. And that's how I started. And it was very, very lucrative and successful. Remember, no head offices, no infrastructure, no staffing. You're selling yourself.
So now you're making some money, you're consulting. But at that point in time, the gym business in South Africa had evolved from those small little gyms into the Health and Racket Club.
Correct.
And eventually Health and Racket go bust. But before that happens, you find a gym in Benoni.
Correct.
Okay, and you decide that you want to buy the gym, but you don't have the money. So you get the owner of the gym to sell it to you, and you're going to pay him off over 10 years from the money that you're making. So you're drawing a salary, you're making a living, and 10 years later, you're the owner of the gym. What made you think you could succeed?
You have to believe in yourself. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else will believe in you. That's first and foremost. And I've always thought when I started the business that we were going to take on the big boys. In my mind, I truly always believed that. I really did. In hindsight, if I look back now at my age and back then, if I had to think about it then, it was crazy. But I believed it in my heart, and I believed it in my soul, and the people that were with me also believed in it. It was a vision. So we started with the end in mind, and taking on the big boys was the best thing that ever happened to us.
So Planet Fitness, Benoni is your first one, and then Sanlam Springs gives you your second one.
Correct.
And slowly
Centurion.
you get there. But it's a tough uphill battle because banks don't want to know you.
Nothing.
Landlords don't want to know you.
Correct.
Ourselves included, simply because a gym is a massive capital outlay. But your business has grown remarkably. How many gyms do you have today?
We have 42 at the moment. With this year alone, we're opening 15, which is more than one a month. Our projections are to open one gym per month for the next 5 years. Very, very aggressive.
How much of the gym business in South Africa, you and your competitors, is driven by the fact that the medical aid subsidize it?
I think it's very healthy. It was an exceptional benefit and advantage to us, particularly with the medical aids. But now what's also happening is that your public market and your market's expanding outside of that arena. So when you have the combination of both the public membership that makes sense, economic sense, and value sense, because we see ourselves as a value proposition compared to our competitors, and you have the option of medical aid, it puts you in good stead to do well.
How many people do you employ in your gyms, approximately?
It's between 12 and 1,300 people at the moment.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
And members?
We've got now somewhere in the region of about, let's count, 250,000 plus.
If you look back on your career, from the time you arrived in South Africa, did you make mistakes?
Absolutely. I mean, I've learned the most out of my mistakes. Anyone that says, that they get it perfect from day one and they never, they haven't gone out of business or they've never lost anything and whatnot, probably never succeeded. So I think I've learned the most from my mistakes, to be honest with you. So we all make the mistakes, absolutely.
And along the way, did you have mentors?
You always have mentors. My mentor could be, the guy, my best friend when I was 5 years old, and he said to me, aren't you going to sell lemonade? And we sold little lemonades, obviously to all my friends' parents.
Yeah.
So that he taught me how to, baseball cards and trade baseball cards for this pitcher, for that batter and whatnot. So that's the start of a mentor.
I bet you sold more lemonade than he did.
I did. I think people felt sorry for me.
Yeah. People who wanted to get into the fitness business, let's call it, anybody from whether they wanted to be a personal trainer or own a gym, run a gym, any aspect of it, what advice would you have to give them?
The best advice I can give you is whatever you do, be passionate about it. Doesn't matter what you do. If it's selling lemonade, you're going to be the best lemonade seller in the world. So my advice is, are you a people person, number one? Because the gym business is still a people business.
I think that applies. Any business that you're in really is people. And incredibly, virtually every interview that we've had in this series, the one thing that's come across is you have to be passionate in order to succeed. Manny, it's really been great talking to you. How many of your hours are you prepared to give us?
Over a year, if you said 2 hours a week, you said 30, 40 hours? What is good? Is that fair?
40 hours.
40? I'm happy with 40.
Let's push it 4 hours a month, 48. Let me get the better of a negotiation for
a change. I'm not too sure about that. You have it done. 48 hours.
48 hours. Thank you very much. Then the next thing I want to ask you is, do you know anybody, either in your field or any other field, who you think would make a good mentor that we could challenge?
I do. There's a guy called Louis Geldenhuis, and he owns Galitos.
Okay.
He's a good friend. He's a brilliant businessman. He's doing very, very well. And he's this kind of, I think he would be a great mentor. I like to challenge him.
Okay, so our production team will get hold of him and challenge him, and hopefully we'll get more than 48 hours. Manny, it's been really wonderful chatting to you, sharing your wonderful experience in South Africa, your success. I'm sure that Planet Fitness is going to grow from strength to strength, particularly when you get soft landlords like us helping you along the way.
It's not true, not true.
So thank you again. If you would like to be mentored by Manny, please register on the website. If you go to our YouTube channel, you can find every one of the interviews that we have done to date, as well as some that haven't been on TV. Please do so. It could change your life. With me in the studio is Tebogo Mogashoa. Tebogo, welcome.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you. So you can best be described as a serial entrepreneur. You grew up in Orlando.
Yes.
You went to WITS, 1996. You qualify as an engineer with a speciality in the telecommunications field. And when you qualify, very bravely, I think, you decide you're not going to follow the route of everybody going out there looking for a job. you're young, you're brash, full of confidence, and you start your own consulting business.
Indeed, that was it, yeah.
So you do that, it goes quite well. You then move on into a whole host of other businesses. Perhaps you can just tell us how that came about. You built up some capital, and what else you went into and why.
Well, Mark, it was a very organic process for me, starting in consulting engineering at a time when consulting engineering wasn't really open to young black engineers. I entered the market at a time when the country was going through a change. You know, this is 97. If you think of 97, you think of the beginning of BEE, democracy, a whole new market, a whole new wave of growth and prosperity. So I thought it was a good idea to jump on that bandwagon and see what I could do to contribute to this economy.
Today, if we look at people today coming out of matric, very few with maths, very few with science, and so few graduates in the engineering field. Don't you think that's a big hole, something that we have a shortage of in South Africa?
Yes, we do have that shortage, but we also could channel those that don't have those particular skills into vocational training, like they do in Germany.
Yeah.
Not everybody's got a degree in Germany. You've got lots of mechanics and plumbers and electricians that are exceptionally good. And through recognition of prior learning, down the line, they become recognized as professionals in their own industries. Therefore, I think we must produce as much engineers as we can produce. If we cannot produce enough of them, then we must convert others into artisans, but develop them to become the best artisans in the world.
But we're not doing it at the moment.
Well, it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
I think it's an area which can be improved, and it's certainly something that does need to be done.
So you have the consulting business, it does quite well, you build up a reasonable balance sheet, and then you decide to go into businesses which for me are totally unrelated to where you come from. You go into fleet management, you go into funding other businesses, and you do all sorts of other things. Was that just opportunistic, planned? How did that come about?
Well, I can't say it was planned. Business for me is a science and an art. But the art comes before the science in the sense that there's a requirement for creativity in business. In other words, to think things through, to conceptualize them and to visualize them. And of course, to respond to opportunities as they present themselves. So as you say, I'm involved in many unrelated businesses. That came about as a result of responding to opportunities that presented themselves at a particular point in time when I was involved in the consulting engineering business. I built enough of a balance sheet to grow into commercial property. And from commercial property, I got into finance, funding SMMEs, providing working capital finance solutions for SMMEs that participate in supplier development programs of corporates, as well as suppliers that are providing services into the state-owned enterprises industry. So that has been a journey for me.
Okay, so those were very business-focused kind of businesses, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And then a few years ago, you decide, well, now you're going to get into the game ranching business, and you have a farm in Limpopo where you're doing buffalo and all other
sable
kinds of
and roan.
Sable and roan. And you'd also become the vice president of the National Wildlife Ranching Organization.
Yes.
So why wildlife? And is it lucrative? Is it a passion?
Well, it's a passion and a business. And most of all, it's renewable. It's a renewable resource in that the breeding allows for expansion of a business in a coordinated manner. And is also enshrined in our Bill of Rights in the Constitution under the sustainable utilization policy of our government. The ability to own private wildlife is something that is special about South Africa compared to the rest of the world. You know, Mark, in other parts of the world, people are not capable of owning wildlife. It belongs to the state.
But you don't own wildlife so that you can go and pet the buffalo.
Yes.
This is, as you say, it's sustainable, so you breed them, you sell them.
You breed them, you sell them. There's utilization for them. There's ecotourism. Some people love to just come and see them. They take photos of them. And there's, of course, other industries where they are consumed through hunting and so on. I don't necessarily do hunting.
I've got a much better idea.
Yeah.
Instead of people coming to South Africa to take pictures of wildlife, why don't you let them take pictures of your beautiful wife? That could also be lucrative.
That would cost them an arm and a leg.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So now you have the wildlife, and then you're going to all things, agriculture. You decided not to go and buy a wine farm, which I think is a recipe to lose money, but you go and farm table grapes for local and export.
Indeed. I mean, I farm grapes in the way that they should be farmed. In that, I mean, table grapes is a commodity that's consumed worldwide. And South Africa is best positioned in the sense that we are one of 6 countries that produce table grapes at a particular time of year that no other country produces. We've got a window that we slot into the global supply chain of table grapes, and that gives us a competitive advantage. And that is really a function of weather more than anything.
I can see that you are very focused on finding the opportunities, like you've just described with the grapes, but you have all these varied businesses. And how do you run them? You obviously have to have highly skilled people operating each business.
Indeed, Mark. I mean, I'm as successful as my team. I've got great support of professionals and capable people in the office that run each and every one of the companies within the group. And, they are passionate, they are skilled, and most of all, they are accountable. And all I do is really just to provide guidance and perhaps the creativity to identify the next opportunities along this journey.
So you don't really have a job?
I don't really have a job. You're right. I mean, this whole term of entrepreneur is actually a name which I can't really identify with, because an entrepreneur is somebody who doesn't have a job. I'd like to think of myself as a deal maker.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think what you do, and is you identify the opportunity, you find the right people,
yes.
You have a treasury that looking after money and allocating capital to the various businesses on an as-need basis.
Yes.
And you watch how they grow, and you think about the next one.
Indeed, that's my job.
So what's next for you?
Mineral beneficiation. I think that it's about time that as South Africans, we add value to the natural resources of our country.
That we export.
And then through mineral beneficiation, we'd be able to respond to the challenge of job creation, as well as diversifying our economy by earning much needed forex to support our currency, as well as to build, a better life for all.
So how many people does your entire organization employ?
Today, we are about 150 people.
Okay, that's good, including the farms and everything.
Well, the farms is more.
Yeah,
I'm talking head office. Head office. The farms, with the farms, it gets into hundreds of people. And
if you had your life over, just graduating from Wits, is there anything you would have done differently?
You know what, Mark? I don't want to sound cliche, but I wouldn't change much about my life. I think I feel like I've been blessed to have the life that I've had. In the short time that I've had in business, I've made some mistakes, but not enough to regret. I don't live in regrets at all.
And along the journey, the various places, have you had the benefit of mentors?
Indeed, I have. I mean, the space for mentorship is important in business. In fact, in business, I believe you need to know what you know, and you also need to know what you don't know. And mentorship accounts for the space that you don't know. That's where you need advice and mentorship.
And sometimes it's just a sounding board.
Sometimes it's a sounding board, indeed.
And certainly you can benefit from learning from others. So it certainly played a role in my success, and I'm certain in yours.
It has.
In fact, we both deal with one guy who's a mentor to both of us, I think.
Indeed.
Hobbies, what do you do to relax?
Mountain biking. I feel...
That's why you look like you do. Thin.
Yeah, that's also good genes as well. That allows. Good genes and mountain biking helps to keep one in check. But certainly, I think from a mental relaxation point of view, I find myself most relaxed on a mountain bike, even though it's such a daunting thought to go up a mountain in a bicycle.
Your family, you have this gorgeous wife who I've met. I've had the pleasure of meeting.
Yes.
Psychologist. She's committed to charity work, to philanthropy. You give back through her. Your son is almost ready. He's going to be matriculated soon. Is he going to come into your business?
Well, I'm going to leave that to him to decide. I'll really just support what he wants to do in life. He's more of a creative guy, whereas I'm more of a logical guy. So, he'll decide. He's much cleverer than me.
Most of our children are. They've got the benefit of our experience, although if they ask for advice, they seldom take it.
You know how it goes.
I do know how it goes. So if I had to say to you, to people out there who want to get into business, in any form of business, where should they start? What advice would you give them?
Well, I would give them the advice in the following terms, that I think they've got to be adaptable to change, because the economy moves all the time. The circumstances and legislation changes all the time. So they've got to be adaptable to change, and also to place importance on relationships. Relationships is everything in business. In my life, certainly relationships have accounted for most of my success in business. And I would advise them to just keep an eye on those two aspects of business: adaptability and relationship.
And people.
People.
Whatever business you're in, it always comes down to people.
Absolutely.
Tebogo, it's been an absolute pleasure having you here. But before I let you go, the real reason you're here wasn't to talk about you or your wife. What we want to know, we did.
Yes.
But now we put you in the hot seat, and we say to you, for the benefit of all the people out there who need mentorship, who need someone like you to give them the guidance, the advice, the benefits that you had from some people going through, how many hours of your time are you going to give me?
Well, Mark, I'll give you the biblical number of 40 hours.
40 hours.
You know the significance of 40?
I don't know.
If you read mostly in any religious text, they like to talk of the number 40. So I'll give you 40 hours.
40 hours I'll take. When I was in the army, we used to worry about 40 days because that's how long we had to go before we got out.
There you go. There's something about this number 40, depending on what text you read. So I think 40 hours is maybe what one needs to get to
40
to learn
hours
something.
is fantastic, and I thank you for it.
Yeah.
But before we move on, have you got somebody that you know, either in the same kind of businesses that you're in or somewhere else, who you think would make a good mentor?
Yes, I think I would like to challenge Brad Kark.
Brad, okay, I know Brad.
You might know of Brad. I think Brad is a serial entrepreneur. He's involved in a number of successful businesses
And property.
And I think he's a good guy that could lend some lessons to a mentee.
No, I think that would be very good. Thank you for that. Our production team will challenge him, and we'll see if we can get more than the biblical 40 hours out of him. Make you look a little bit bad.
Yeah.
Tebogo, thank you. It's been a pleasure talking to you, to seeing you. I wish you every success. I think all of your businesses are successful. Soon we'll hear about mineral benefication, and you'll continue to grow. Don't forget, if you want to buy another property, come and talk to us, although this time pay a proper price.
Oh, thank you, Mark. Thank you very much for your invitation to your show.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
It's been a great pleasure.
Thank you. If you would like to be mentored by Tebogo, please register on our website. It could change your life. We'll see you again next week.